Hey, I'm Dr. Tom Miller, and I just finished this amazing board retreat with this incredible school partner that's been I've been working with them for over 10 years. And their success from here, to there, I've talked about it many times. It's Piedmont Community Charter School. They have certainly transformed their school culture through effective leadership at the board level and at the head of school level, and is continuing to multiply, leadership. And each year, I have facilitated their retreat for the last, decade. But on top of the board retreat, then they do 3 months of strategic planning as a board with their goal setting, and it's really just transformed a school that was doing good. It had 800 or 900 students, but average academically, and now it's the highest performing school in the area. It's the sixth largest charter school in the state of North Carolina. So I couldn't be more proud of Jennifer Killen and her team. But I just want to kind of spend some time here and talk about the power of a board retreat. I mean, you know. What you know the annual retreat does three things in my mind. One, it sets vision. Boards need to be microscopic on a now, but telescopic on the future. So the vision, right, it reminds the board of the North Star. It gets everybody pointed and moving in the same direction. The second thing it does is it builds clarity. And that helps, we always, define roles and responsibilities and the priorities. That's always on any board retreat that I do. This first question that everybody always asks is, right, like, what is my role? Like, what am I actually supposed to be doing here? Because, governance is a significantly different skill and practice than management. And most people, right, manage. Not most, like the super majority are managers at their work, but they're not governors. So it's totally different. So we talk about that. It also creates culture. It creates culture through connection, trust, and a common language. And one key piece to always know and understand: no unity, no trust, no progress as a board. So, but here's the thing: the retreat is only as powerful, right, as it leads to action. So, like, it's great that this board spent 4.5 hours, today getting to know each other. You're talking about roles and responsibilities, gaining clarity, asking effective questions, setting priorities, casting a vision for the future. But what's more important is the action they take specifically over the next 90 days. So I'm going to show you the governance priorities that really sustain excellence long after the retreat ends. And so, but why does this matter, you ask? Well, you know, 40% of charter schools close by year 10. Okay. And it's not just because of the kids that are teachers, but really because of governance breakdown. And those numbers increase actually the older that the charter school gets. The charter school over 20 years old, 55% of them close, right? So, schools are closing in their first 5 years of infancy, right? To their more mature ages, but they all have the same reasons. It's mismanagement, right? And that starts at the board level. It really starts at the board level. And your board, it's not just a group of volunteers, right? They are stewards of innovation, accountability, and driving greater opportunities for students. That's the whole purpose of what a school does, right? Student learning. And so, but schools who don't pay attention to the most important information and don't continuously work to evolve and grow, they're the ones that end up being in the headlines for not the right reason. So, here's just a very normal five, points, right? Five governing priorities that everybody on your board should have, clarity around. The first is clear roles and responsibilities. Now, the board governs and the leadership manages. And the easiest way to communicate this is the board asks how well, right? How well is the education plan meeting the needs of our kids? How well is our finance plan ensuring we're, viable financially? How well are the policies, creating an organization where people can make decisions and behave in a way that's conducive to create a very positive culture, right? How well. And the management team answers how will, right? This is how they will do it. So one of the great resources, and if you'd like one, you could email me and I'll send it to you. But it's our board roles and responsibilities sheet, right? It's just great chart that I've got here. It's a overall, design of the partnership, and then on the back, it's got each of the eight roles and responsibilities, that I teach to ensure that, high performing boards, they stay in their lane and they're always on mission, right? Always focused on mission and, value. So I'll put a link here in the description. So if you want to download our roles and responsibility sheet, you can have it. So one is clear roles and responsibilities. Two is strong committees. Okay. Uh, all the work of a charter school board happens in between the board meetings. It doesn't happen at the meeting. Dialogue, right, is not, decision making. Board meetings are focused on action and, decision, and sometimes clarity. And if we don't have all the answers we want, if a motion fails, then it goes back to committees. So one of the great tools that I always share is our overall descriptions of our finance, governance, academics, and, development committees. Those are the four that I think every school should have. And we've got other great tools like our treasurer's kit that really helps really equip the treasurer, because the number one reason that charter schools do close is because of finances. So you always need really strong individuals with finance background, and our treasurer's kit is a really great helpful tool. And again, if you'd like a copy, go ahead and email me at tom@lbleaders.com, and I'm happy to send it to you. We also have recruitment, so I've got a great board recruitment plan, and all of this actually can be found in my book, The 10 Indicators of High Performing Charter Schools. If you don't have a copy, you can search it on Amazon or email me and I'll show you how to get it. But so these are some great tools that come. If you buy the book, you get all these. So you get our treasurer's kit, you can get our board member binder, background, you can get our board recruitment kit, right? All these really great tools that shifts a board from being reactive to being proactive, right? So that's what I always want is when we lead a retreat, do the board members have the right tools and resources and understanding to be proactive rather than operating in a reactive mode? And we create a outcomes-based, calendar. So this is a strategic annual calendar that helps every board member understand per month, right? What are we focusing on? When are we going to get our major academic reports? When are we going to have our strong finance reports? When are we reviewing policies? When are we approving new hires, right? When are we reviewing the budget? It's important that we're always right looking 3 to 6 months ahead as a high performing school. So first is roles and responsibilities. The two is strong committees. Three, knowing the rules that uh, govern you. So there's a constant misunderstanding between what bylaws do and policies. Bylaws create the legal structure, right? That's the legal structure of your governing body. They, determine how many board members you'll have, how they're voted on, what their term limits on. There might be some, descriptions of committees and officers, but I don't think that's a great place for your, bylaws, because you don't want your bylaws to be overly rigid where like you can't operate. Okay. And then you've got your policies. Now the policies are what create the box that everybody operates in. And it's critical that a school have policies, because if you want consistency and you want to take the human element out of decision making, you got to have policies. And remember, every policy is written after the emergency occurs, right? So the number one question I get asked in terms of crisis, right? Or I'm sorry, the number one question I ask back in terms of crisis, I always say to the head of school or the board chair, well, what do your policies say? And most of the time, they haven't even checked and they haven't even read. So it's an important part that you take the time, all right, to review your policies annually, to ensure that they are creating, the culture that you desire and the operating, behavior of the people. They're not just words on paper. They're really critical, important tool for everybody to know, how I make decisions and how we create, consistency. The third one is the charter agreement. You should have an understanding of what it is, right, you're responsible for to your authorizer. Okay. So bylaws, policies, and the charter agreement. Those are three critical structural documents that really govern you. I'd say that the policies, right, out of the three are probably the one that are the most broad and maybe will shift, the most often. The charter agreement's out of your hands, but everybody should know what they're responsible for because that charter, that's your contract with the state and your authorizer. And if you ignore it, you risk massive closure, right? Okay. So, and then policies give you the consistency, right? And they really prevent boardroom, chaos and second guessing, around that. Okay. So we've talked about roles and responsibilities, committees, and the those major documents that really govern you. Okay. Let's do two more. So we'll do recruiting and preparing future leaders. Now, I believe your recruitment plan for your board should be focused on three things. One, just strong governance structure. So that's, having someone who understands, governance or a policy or like a legal aspect. Two, finances. Always got to have multiple people on your board who understands finances. Three, it's great to have educators on your board since the purpose of your school is for, students to learn. And just because everybody went to school doesn't mean that they understand how a school operates. All right. The next part would be the goals of the school. So where are you going? So what are your long-term goals? What's your vision forward? You should be recruiting board members that align to help you, make that a reality. So if you're looking to expand, you need individuals who understand, development and expansion and, capital growth or understanding contracts, project management, right? You need someone on your board to help you drive, through that. If you want to be a fundraising board, then you need individuals on your board who have raised or experience in raising, two, common numbers, and not just, people that have been successful at, small like bake sales. Okay, so the first part is that good, strong, governance structure. Part two of your recruitment process is really focused on where is the organization going forward. And three are your core values, right? Are you recruiting mission and vision aligned, individuals, right? Do they, believe in where the school is going and how do they act, right? Because that's what values are. Your core values are how you behave. So if you do that, right, you're going to have a really strong, continuous, governance structure. And so strong boards should always have a bench. So I recommend that you have potential board members sit on committees. Okay. And so they can serve on a committee for the year. And that kind of gives them a leg up, right? It gives them that next, step. So now you understand how they operate. They have a better understanding of how your board operates. You can see them in action. You can understand their, are they, like-minded in, mission, vision, and values. And that's a critical part. Okay. So recruitment plans and are critical. It should be by design, not by default. And everybody should have a succession plan. So everybody on your board should be recruiting their replacement. And so that would mean similar, right, or the same skill sets, and obviously, like-minded and, mission, vision, and values. Strong, effective, schools always have a really great leadership bench. And then number five is the policy development process. Okay. There's got to be a healthy policy cycle. So as I said, before, most policies are written after the emergency occurs. So there's one thing you always want to make sure of. Okay, so when a crisis happens, right? Crises don't create leaders, crisis reveal leadership. And so it's important, right? Something happens, go to your policy manual. If you don't have a policy, written, you could go to like your local school district, policy or a state law. Like you need something to help you make a decision. And I would always recommend calling your lawyer, especially if it's a big issue. Now, if you identify that the policy you have stinks, right? You just got to suck it up and you got to move forward, make a decision, okay, get done with it, and then go back and rewrite your policy. Rewrite your policy. It's so important. And so when you're going through the policy process, right, you're going to propose, gather, stakeholder data, review, approve, and continue to monitor policies every single year. This should be happening about January, that all the policies should be reviewed And this gives you time, right, as a governance committee to review policy, to get feedback, and to make any necessary changes so you can get it approved by April, which gives the management team enough time to rewrite handbooks, based upon any new policy. I mean, one of the biggest challenges, me, being a school leader in Florida, is that every, July, we get all these new, policies that have been approved. And I'm sure that's just the way the timeline is, right? But it's very short, preparation time to make sure we're adhering to them. So always be thinking about that. No, okay, so here we go. So, call to action from the retreat to reality. So, your retreat's going to give you, vision, right? It's going to help strengthen a culture. It's going to start to build momentum, right? But it's really, really important is that you take action. So, what I love to do out of the retreat is to build a 90-day plan. Okay, so we build a prioritized plan, right? Based upon where we want to be 12 months from now. So you could just have your board, list out, right? Here's the things that we want to do. Sometimes I have them vote to see what's a priority, or we just really say, hey, what are the top three things I got to do? And then we assign what is that a management responsibility or a board responsibility? If it's a board responsibility, can we put it under a committee, to do that? And I would just, recommend at this time of year, okay, according to our, we've got a month by month board development plan. You should be, reviewing your bylaws, orienting your board members, creating vision and make sure you got written down goals, for the year, right? Everybody needs to understand like where are we going and what's my role in it? Okay, where are we going and what's my role in it? And listen, if you don't have that right in play, and if you don't have someone to help you do it, like that's what I do. I'm really good at helping schools gain, clarity and making sure the board is moving in the right direction. So if you're, if you love help, go ahead and reach out. You can email me at tom@lbleaders.com, right? I'll help you design a full retreat and a training session, tailored for your team. So you're not just drifting in, compliance, right? Having a board that's effective, it fuels innovation and it continues to keep the school going. So you stay out of that wrong side of the data point, right? You don't want to be a school. And I was actually sharing with the board today in my RSS feed. There was two, charter schools that are closing. One has been in existence for over 15 years out of San Antonio, and they are, closing because of the Title I funds. They are not receiving the money that they used to, and as a result, right, they weren't, planning ahead, and we're not able to plan ahead. And now they are going to have to close after 15 years. And they had a 96% graduation rate. They were, so there, may have been some other finance issues, right? But that's, fiscal mismanagement. Like you've got to be able to make sure that you have a diverse stream of revenue to keep your school going. And the second school was one in Arizona that is going to close based upon its compliance in serving students with disabilities, right? So like as a governing board, you are responsible, right, for all aspects of your school, but you're not required to do anything. You are required to govern, and to govern means to effectively ask questions and to oversee and to trust but verify that the school is moving in the right direction based upon key metrics, right, that you and the leader, decide. So I think another part coming out of the retreat that we just spent, some time on is, okay, here's our goals. What are the reporting metrics, right, for each of these goals? Because getting on your board agenda, right, everything has to fight for its life. So if it doesn't inform the board on the progress of the school moving forward to that goal, then it doesn't need to be in the board report and it doesn't need to be part of the board agenda. The older the school is, the shorter the board time should be spent on the present, and the majority of the board meetings should be sent all on the future, right? So a retreat, it sets the fire, okay? But the governance priorities and the behavior of the board member keeps that fire burning, right? It keeps on breathing oxygen into that fire. So don't just settle, right, for being another boat in the ocean of sameness, right? Be that ship that's truly changing the tide. It's taking students and staff, right, from here to there in the most efficient and fun way, because learning should be fun. So I hope this was helpful for you. It's a little bit of oversight of what we do during our board retreats. Any resources that you might need, I'm happy to share them. So go ahead and email me at tom@lbleaders.com. And if you liked what I said, hit the like button. Make sure you're subscribing because each week I'm going to be putting out a new video. Bye-bye.